Hi, I had wanted to update the community on the current situation with COVID, both across the state of California and locally. Many people may be aware that we have seen a sharp increase in COVID cases on both levels. And the governor did in fact have a press conference today to talk about the dramatic change in the COVID landscape that we are seeing right now. We have never seen such a rapid increase in COVID activity in this state before. And we are now also seeing an increase in hospitalizations accompanying that. There is enough concern about this and how rapidly the situation is changing that the historic movement of counties between tiers, where we hit certain metrics, if we hit them 2 weeks in a row, we change tier, that structure is being accelerated in response to the urgency that the data is showing us. So basically at this time, we had been in yellow tier by our data. And we had gotten a little edge on that because of our social equity data. Our case rate now has climbed to 4.8. Anything that is 4 or greater in essentially between 4 and 7 puts us in the red tier. And that is the second to most restrictive tier. It's a leap of 2 tiers for us. But our data certainly warrants it at this time. In fact, we were certainly seeing that internally before the state released that data. So basically at this time, the state is asking that we move to the red tier functionally in 24 hours, essentially tomorrow. There are multiple ramifications of that across the community in terms of our business sectors. And I'm not going to go through all of them because they are posted on the website, both for CDPH as well as our Humboldt Health Alert. But I will mention a few. The closure that occurs because of this are at bars, essentially, distilleries. Those would close completely, as opposed to what we were operating under with yellow. So that's obviously a big impact for those establishments. Most of the other tiers are adjustments in capacity rather than complete closures. Office spaces that are non-essential are to be remote. And again, family recreation that is indoors is no longer permitted. So things like bowling, climbing walls, things like that occur indoors. It's important to remember that the driver for these tiers and the way they're established is really trying to modify, again, how we operate rather than completely ceasing operation in sectors wherever possible. What we have learned through this pandemic is that indoor settings are highest risk. Indoor settings where you are not able to mask throughout and distance throughout are high risk. So we know that in some settings, such as restaurants and bars, where people come in close contact, talking and laughing, again, without masking, that there is an increased risk of transmission. So when you look at sort of the construction of the tiers, you'll see that it's really edging down a lot on indoor capacity for various things, from churches to restaurants, gyms, that type of thing. And again, in just an effort to decrease transmission from what's occurring in our area right now. I can tell you that a lot of our current cases are being driven by travel and by gatherings and the combination of travel and gatherings. So this is not travel where you pack up your backpack and go hike in the woods and camp as a family or alone, a household unit or alone. This is travel where you're going to visit friends and family, staying in households, having close contact, unmasked, sharing vehicles, or bringing relatives to visit and friends to the county to stay with you and do the same. Also, gatherings between local households, indoors especially, is another driver of our cases. And so I really want to be clear to people that if we want to be able to keep our schools operational, to keep our business community operational, we have to stop the gathering. And that's a particularly difficult challenge at the holiday season, but it's essential to protect our families and our community. If we continue down this path, we will move into the purple tier. There will be further decreases in capacity and closures, and it will really have a broader impact on our community. So I'm really asking for everyone's cooperation in this. Our holidays this year need to be our households. That's where the celebration occurs. We can Zoom, we can call, we can have other forms of communication, but we simply cannot be gathering multiple households indoors. And particularly when people are not masked. If people are in the home, we need to increase ventilation in the home, open windows, have as much ventilation as possible. People really need to be masked indoors and distanced from each other if it's indoors. But the safest option for everyone in our community is just not gathering for this time period and letting our case counts settle back down, and so that we don't need to continue to move forward in this more restrictive setting. Thank you.